Lugate and Drecker Yenishe, Adona and Shinigi A, Inde Nishe, Irish Bashachin, Inde Dashache, German Dashanali, Akote go A to Shli A, Portland, Oregon, Inisha, Shema A, Kathy Lindsay Woye, Shaza A, Dale Ecker Wole. My name is Andrew Ecker, my mother, Kathy Lindsay, my father, Dale Ecker. My mother's mother, Elva Gallegos, Apache woman from New Mexico. My mother's father, Leroy Lindsay, Apache man from Arkansas. My father's father, Wayne Ecker, German and Algonquin from Pennsylvania. I have one daughter, a son, a daughter named Bailey, a son named Peyton, and a beautiful, beloved fiance named Monica. I'm grateful to be here with all of you. And I also want to recognize Evelyn Beatty, my Irish grandma on my dad's side. I was born in Portland, Oregon, although I reside here in Phoenix, Arizona, in the land of the Akmal Atam, the Peepash, and the Maricopa. Just very grateful to be here with all of you today, sharing a little bit from my heart, sharing a little bit about really some topics here that I feel can help all of us. And that is, pandemic prayers. I mean, obviously it's a morning time. We're going to share some prayers here. We're going to connect in a good way. But also, coming into the place of emotional intelligence, how we can live in the resolve of infinite source, how we can live in the resolve of understanding the human condition, and how this helps us navigate this current situation that we're in. It is the plan, I believe, for us to be in a state of continual experiential prosperity. Now, what does that mean inside of the human condition of this current state that we're in economically, socially, spiritually, and personally? Well, what that means is it's a time of reflection and really looking at the human condition, looking at where we're at, understanding the nature of how you navigate and how you interpret times. This is an important part of really, I guess, coming to a place in which you find a sense of freedom, a sense of peace, a sense of even expansion inside of the current contemporary container. And I know that this is challenging for many of us because, of course, we see all of the destruction, we see the distancing, we see the limitations happening. And the feedback that I get from most people is I feel overwhelmed, I feel paralyzed, I don't know what direction to go in. I'm listening to this person, I'm listening to that person, and I don't know what is the actual answer. And what I want to install into your programming, and what I hope will be something that you can actually hold on to, is what feels best to you. Does it feel best to you? Do you feel good inside of yourself to be in a perpetual state of lack of trust, of lack of security? Does it feel good to you to continually go down the rabbit holes of distrust and to build the architecture inside of your life, to build up all of the fortification of the walls of separation? How does this serve you? And this takes really kind of allowing yourself to step into the 7 sacred directions. Many of you have followed me and the book I wrote, The Sacred 7, that gives us the understanding through an indigenous technology of self-identity, a practice into our lives. And this practice is about the expansion of our understanding of the directions. Why do we sing songs to the directions? Why do we invite the directions into our ceremonies? Why do we do these sorts of protocols inside of the container of ceremonial understanding? And this is because it expands the consciousness. You see, if you were to get into some of the ceremonial practices that have allowed me to be in the state of peace that surpasses all understanding, in the state of reflection on my own life, in the optimization of my relationship with Monica, our business, all of the thriving that's going on right now, you would understand that hyper-focus has been something that I have been aware of. And how have I come into that awareness? I've come into that awareness through the utilization of these indigenous practices without the sensation of appropriation, but instead to look at the totality and to realize the Creator gave us 7 directions for a reason. The 7 directions that we outline in the Sacred 7 give you an ability to loosen yourself from the hyper focus of one direction. When you are in a place of continually reflecting on the ideas that the government is out to get you, that corporations are out to get you, that the military industrial complex, that the police state is out to get you, you are going to find the reflection inside of your reality. And what I would encourage you to do is to loosen yourself from that hyper-focus point of view and to allow yourself to come into a place of deductive reasoning. Deductive reasoning and reasoning as a whole will give you a premise in which you can begin to optimize your reflection on the current social condition, the media, the influences that you're allowing into your life, who you allow to sit at the dinner table with you. The perplexities of what we consider truth are astronomical. It is an astronomical understanding. It is so elevated in our lives. And what I am sharing with you is a strategy that you can begin to loosen yourself from this idea and constructs of objective truth and into a place in which you actually are able to feel into the body. Now, if you look at any scholar that has studied the humanities, that has looked at the motivation of artistic expression or language or, things that really resonate with me, culture, you can look at the idea of what came out of Hermes, right? The messenger of the gods, the Hermetic studies, and how we can begin to optimize our reasoning by looking at the context of where a person is at. And in this current context, and this is also before the pandemic, we as a community, as a country, have been in a state of depression, of mental health issues, of suicide, of mass drug addiction, of disconnect from nature itself, from the air, the water, the fire, the earth. Just understanding the context of where we were at prior to the pandemic, you can give yourself a deeper understanding of why the behaviors are manifesting, why people are afraid for themselves, why they feel the need to go out and buy weapons, why they feel the need to barricade themselves, why there is such a heightened state of fear. People are so attached to the illusion that they're confused by the reality of love. Even myself, in the way that I navigate and the way that I approach my relationships with you and the community that we serve, even inside of this intimate container, this vulnerable container, there's questions that come up, right? Like, why is he doing this? Why is he on here? Is he trying to sell me something? All of these reflections that we have created in limiting and distancing ourselves from relationships, this has been a causality. And it's on, sometimes a subconscious bias, it's in the programming. And maybe, we're limited by that terminology. Well, I'll say it is inside of a bias inside of us as individuals that have grown up in the inundation of marketing, the inundation of, snake oil, basically. And also when we look at our diet and we look at the corporations and the government and the lack of protection, and we look at the war on drugs, so many of the things that have gone on, there was a time when they told us as children, at least my generation, that marijuana was the same as crack cocaine. These were the images that we were given. The first time we smoked marijuana, we're like, oh, well, that's nothing. I can put this down. I can walk away from it. And we subconsciously sometimes, and sometimes consciously, make the connection to the limitations of what the government has fed us. Therefore, when It comes a time when actually there's a need for understanding. We're limited in our perception. And I can tell you that growing up in the height of the Reagan and the Clinton and the Bush war on drugs, that my family suffered persecution. I've witnessed police brutality from a very early age. I watched the police beat my mother up in front of me because my mother had an addiction, because she suffered from a disease. And there's a level of mistrust in my life that I have had to go deep into and ask myself, does this trauma, does this pain, does this anger, does this frustration serve me? And what does it do for my mental health? And I want you to have that sovereignty to ask yourself that spiritual sovereignty to ask yourself, does this YouTube video that I'm watching, does this Facebook post that I'm reading, does this serve my mental health? Because you are the one that is inviting the people to dinner. You're inviting the guests into your reality. You know, I hope that I'm a guest that comes into your reality and serves your peace, that serves your love, that serves your ability to see yourself in your sovereignty. And as I come into your space, I want you to know that I'm humble in receiving your attention. And I'm very grateful for that audience that you're giving me. And I want you to know, in my practice of service to community, that the authenticity, the vulnerability that I show, the fear that I sometimes show, the limitations that I allow myself to step into, it's because I know as we hold space, as we create a community together, as we really engage with one another, we're able to loosen ourselves from the captivity, the generational captivity that's becoming apparent in this current contemporary life. And it's important that we come to this realization. It's important that those of us that are in a place that really begin to understand reasoning and understand, how do we deal with people that are in a place of frustration, anger, and fear? How do we help them? Is it by attacking their political point of view? Is it by attacking their deductive reasoning? Is it by attacking their conspiracy theories? Is it by attacking all of the things that they're holding on to as their truth? It never worked for me. You know, the more that you would tell me that what I'm feeling and what I'm experiencing is wrong, the more that I would get angry at you and push you away and call you a name like a sheeple, or, oh gosh, there was just so many names. Yuppies, that was a big thing that we used back in the 90s, when I was out there on the street growing dreadlocks, selling LSD in my own personal revolution. We would look at the people and we would say, oh, they're yuppies. Obviously, they're following the system. And today, in a place of logical reasoning, when we look at a global kind of understanding and we go into countries that trust their government, or countries that actually, facilitate like the ordinances with brute force, in those two realms, you're seeing people actually win. They're winning against this pandemic. But yet us in the middle of this, in the place that we're at as a country, we have yet to really take into consideration the necessary tools of reasoning, of deductive reasoning, of hermeneutics, of realizing, like, how do we study the human condition and how do we navigate it in a way that serves us and our family? Listen, there are people out there that are bringing conspiracy theories to dinner, and their children are listening to these things. Their children are listening to the fear that's being perpetuated by grown men. Their children are seeing their fathers go out and buy guns, go out and arm their family. And we're losing something. We're losing the condition of our own morality. We're losing the condition of our own trust. And listen, I'm not one to say you just blindly give your trust away, but what is it that you're putting your trust in? Grandpa Leroy, he was Well, I like to say he is. He's my mother's father, and career military, served 23 years in the world's finest navy, as he would say. And he taught me something at a very early age. I remember asking him, about God. And he said to me, he said, well, that inside of a hurricane or inside of a typhoon or inside of the ocean, when you're riding the big waves, he says there's no atheist on the ship. And what he meant by that is when we are confronted with a situation or a circumstance in our lives that brings us to the place of literally on our knees, when we come to that place of going to our knees and we don't have anywhere to reach inside of ourselves, we reach up. And I just want to give you permission. What comes forward for me? Many of us have been hurt by the church. We've been hurt by religion. But that doesn't mean that relationship is just, well, inside of the hurt of the container of our relationship to God, if we'll just use the word God, we've separated ourselves from the ability to have a relationship with something that serves us. And what I want you to know is that we're all kind of on the ship right now that Grandpa Leroy talked about. We're all riding the waves. We're all in the hurricane. We're all in the typhoon. And it's okay to reach out for something greater than yourself. It's okay to invite that relationship into your life and to really connect with the fire, to set your altar, to ask the air, the water, the fire, the earth to be present with you, to look to nature as an understanding of your relationship with source intelligence, to look to the intelligence and the biomimicry that's out there. Like how do you look at biology as a form of a higher power? How do you look at the stars as a form of a higher power? How do you look inside of yourself as a form of higher power? Jesus, he said, the kingdom of God is within you. And yet the reasoning that allows us to get into that place is absent, because in our contemporary culture, we've been so focused on creating jobs that we really haven't created earthlings or actually whole people. And where do we find that? We find that in the resilience of our indigenous communities that have held on to the technologies that can usher us in to another phase of our evolution, in which technology and the human condition of feelings and empathy and understanding and love and gratitude begin to live in synergistic reflection. This is where we're going. This pandemic, the cultural transformation, all of this is an answer to prayer. And I know that it's challenging to see right now. But I also want you to know that the greatest gift that you are going to give yourself is the permission to see it. Understand this that we're going through with gratitude in your heart, and you will loosen the chains of captivity to the energies that no longer serve you. Well, with that said, I wanted to share a little bit of Grandpa Leroy's wisdom with everyone here this morning, and also give us some time to pray. So just going to step into this prayer place here. And, if you're, I don't know what time the time zone is where you're at, but it's a little bit early here. It's just 9 o'clock. So I'm just kind of getting my day going. And I'm going to go ahead and pray us into a beautiful day, a day of revelation, a day of understanding, a day of intimacy. So Father, Mother, Creator, Source, we thank you for this opportunity to be in this prayer place. And we thank you for the gift of prophecy, for the gift of understanding, for the gift of revelation. I thank you for my relatives that are here, that are gathered in this prayer place with me. I thank you for the doorway into the doorway out, for the expansion of our consciousness, that each and every one of us is a reflection of universal love. I thank you for the gratitude that cuts through the chains of our karmic consequences, that we may learn the lessons of COVID, that we may learn the lessons of this pandemic, that we may learn the lessons of what it means to be in the peace that surpasses all understanding. Creator, we lean not on our own understanding, but instead we put ourselves into the hands of the optimization of our consciousness, that we may be in the fulfillment of all seven directions, the above place, the below place, the inside place, the east, the south, the west, the north, that we would allow for ourselves to be in that place of understanding our relations, our relatives here that are suffering in fear. And we pray that you would break the chains of captivity to all of the misinformation that is out there. That we would just live in a place of understanding, that common decency, that love, that the place of whether we feel comfortable or not is a place of service to one another. And I pray that you would allow for us to be in service to ourselves, to our community, to our planet, that we would allow for peace to be a proclamation, that peace would prevail in our land. I thank you, Creator, for the social movement of Black Lives Matter. I thank you for allowing for us to understand the need for equality. I thank you for that. I thank you for allowing for us to understand the need for equality in our lives. I thank you for the revelation of what has come, and also for the manipulation of a movement of peace into brutality, into destruction. I thank you for that. I thank you for the causality of allowing for us to witness what has gone on. I thank you for the ability to navigate this current contemporary climate and culture with love. I thank you that love shall prevail. I thank you that people will return their guns and simply allow for you to be the navigation system and the protector of their lives. We thank you for the sacred masculine energy that protects us. We thank you that you are our shield of faith to protect us from the arrow that flies by night, that you have allowed for the manifestation of love to be our guidance system, that we are those that have been called in accordance with the will, and that in this moment that we are prospering exceedingly and abundantly above anything that we can ever hope or imagine. I thank you for the ability to release ourselves from the financial insecurities, that we are the lender and not the borrower, that we are even going forward into communities, into relationships, and that we are showing encouragement to one another. I thank you that even in this time, in this business climate, that you are growing our businesses because of our faith, because of our prayer, because of our ability to be the harnessing of the voice of love and reason in this time. I thank you for the dissolving of the barriers of fear. I thank you for a new wave of mental health, of clarity, of spiritual revival. I thank you for the place in which we come into witnessing your power and your manifestation. I thank you that you have already devoured the enemy that has come into our camp. I thank you that you are devouring sarcasm, that you are devouring the limitations that keep us from the authenticity and vulnerability of the moment. I thank you that you have allowed for us to see the separation that keeps us from being in that place of honestly harnessing the power of the living, eternal I am. I thank you for that place of understanding that who we are in this moment is relative to the container of our own culture. I thank you that we are in a place in which we are understanding how to nurture the sick and the dying and those that are in a place of need. I thank you for allowing for us to understand when a person is mentally ill, for understanding when a person is in fear, for understanding when a person is in a place of the murky waters of limitation of their own self-thought, and for us to be in a place of loving them. I thank you for that ability to love them. I thank you for all of the people that are in the institutions, in the rest homes, in the care facilities, in the hospitals, in the drug treatment facilities, in the institutions of incarceration, in the jails, in the prisons. I thank you for every single person that's working in these institutions, and I pray that you would bless the doctors, the nurses, the COs, the detention officers, the people that are working in rehabilitation facilities, that you would bless them with comfort, guidance, and protection. I thank you that you have sent forth an assignment of ministering and warring angels to set up an encampment around them, that you are giving us the necessary technologies to navigate the disinfectants and the destruction of the virus in every single form in our wake of our reality. I thank you that you have allowed for us to be in relationship with the virus, and that you have allowed for us to be in a place in which we are living in peaceful coexistence, and that we are healthy enough to see our grandchildren. I thank you for many years of life, optimal years of life, in which we enjoy exercise, we enjoy good diet, we enjoy the foods that make us and allow for us to live in the plentiful reasoning of optimization of our nature. I thank you for our psychic gifts. I thank you for empathy. I thank you for the ability to understand on a deep level. Beritori samari tutama wanita siti tuko. Ari to sanita ama wakori tsiki ti tishko ma boka ni ta siroro ma ori ta siki ti tarama tari ma koki shinita wasenita oka ma sinita unka nita oshinita amari to kishinita anita awa shuri rama anita ori wakoma sinita Shinita anito Shinita sinito amanito akasinito umawa sinita. Benito shinita anito rima onita rimoko nita anita tsusinita amarito tiki. Nita sinita. I feel a vision of, it was a little baby, and this little baby was sitting by a river. It was like an Amazonian river, and the baby was using sticks and was just playing right there, and just really being just a little baby right by the edge of the water. And inside of the water was a huge crocodile, like an alligator, and the alligator was waiting to and was looking at it and was observing this little baby by the edge. And I felt like this fear, but yet the Holy Spirit was ministering to me, and this guide that I work with through the Holy Spirit, the language, was sharing with me that innocence is a barrier of protection. That innocence is a barrier of power. And that even though the devourer is in the murky water, that your innocence and your childlike nature of the mystic is what is guiding you and protecting you. Stay in your curiosity, relative. Stay in your empowerment. Stay in the place of your understanding of the faith of a child. You have come into this world with a knowing that you should prosper. You have allowed for yourself to trust in your mother, to trust in your father, to trust in the community, to trust in your family. This is the place of ultimate power. This is the faith of the child coming forward. The inner child needs visited inside of you. You have been in a place in which you have diminished the inner child by the form of the distortion of the toxic masculine. You thought that the masculine is your protection. You thought, I could fortify myself, I could protect myself with all of these limiting thoughts, but yet the power of the child's innocence is what keeps you from the unknown, the darkness that's inside of the murky waters, the darkness that's inside of the arrow that flies by night, the arrow that comes into your camp without you even knowing that it is there. It is the innocence of the child that perpetuates a field of energetic comfort. Inside of you is that inner child. Reach out and touch the inner child. Play in the inner child again. Understand that the toxicity of the masculine and the patriarchy is no way to protect your inner child. It is the activation of your own innocence. Reclaim your innocence. Reclaim your curiosity. Reclaim the power of the living eternal I am, the intelligent source of infinite power inside of your life. There was a time when you moved your hand over the world and you seen the butterfly come to you. You seen the hummingbird come to you. You seen the eagle and the hawk and the bear and the elk and all of the ministry of nature come into your field. It is time that you activate that again. It is time that you call forward your elemental friends, that you sit with the water and speak to her as your grandmother, as you sit with the mountain and say to him, grandfather mountain, as you sit with the ocean and you invite her into your life in a way of relational spirituality in which you are allowing yourself to be warmed not only by the fire of your own intuition, but also the ancestral fires that have burned since the very dawn of cultural awareness. It is time that you listen to the words that are coming to you on the wind. It is time that you nurture yourself under the blanket of gravity, in which you come into realization that time is your friend. It is a power that is inside of you to understand the potential of source working through you. It is that time of the activation of your curiosity. We are in the deepening state of the prophecy. We are in the deepening time of awakening. We are in the time in which our spiritual gifts are much more important than the weapons of this world. It is our time to claim our truth of love and gratitude. Let that prevail to the world. Let that message be proclaimed in the high places. Let us be sensitive to those around us that are in fear and be of service to them. Like the child that comes into the room and says, "Daddy, how can I help? Mommy, how can I help? Mommy, can I do the dishes?" With curiosity and love and innocence. Oh, I feel that so deeply right now. Reclaim your innocence, relative. Reclaim your innocence. Some of you, it was stolen from you. Some of you, it was taken from you. Some of you, you learned a pattern of giving your innocence over. And you've been living under that for years now. I'm witnessing a powerful transformation. I'm feeling the energy in my right above my navel flowing out into the source, flowing out into the field. If you're receiving that energy, just let me know. Leave a comment. If you're receiving it right now, just let someone know in your life. If it's not me, let someone know that you're being ministered to, that the Holy Spirit is still here with us, that the witness of our ancestors is still here with us, that the air, the water, the fire, the earth, gravity, time, and spirit, it has not given up on us yet. The star nations are still proclaiming the goodness of what it means to be an earthling. We are still earthlings together in this time. We have proclaimed love and prosperity and the amount of ability to navigate this system of destruction, and we are not alone. Let someone know today that you love them. And if nobody's told you today that they love you, I want you to know that I love you. And I'm grateful for you being here in this ministry. Thank you so much. Please get a free copy of my book, The Sacred Seven. I did an audio book, the best that I can too, for those of you that aren't necessarily comfortable in reading, like myself. This wisdom, this indigenous technology of self-identity is more relevant today than I believe it has ever been. My contemporary understanding is probably as close as you can get to a person who didn't grow up with the technology, but has an understanding of how you can apply it to your life. Understand the feminine aspect, the masculine aspect. Understand your inner child. Step into that place, relative. It's a good time. I love you guys so much. Thank you for joining in this prayer time. Thank you for being here. Beauty above, beauty below, beauty beside, beauty in front, beauty behind, beauty within. I am, we are made beautiful again.